There we go. Hello, everybody. Off to a great start. And welcome to another episode of Dual Dynasty, your weekly WWE review show here on the BC WrestlePod, Twitch, YouTube, networking, podcasting, conglomeration, network syndicate thing we pretty much do every single day of the week, except for Thursdays. I am your host, Mikey, and boy, do I have a cavalcade of guests here for you this evening, or morning, or afternoon, wherever you're watching in the world. But first and foremost, I am Mikey. I am El Jefe around these parts, rocking the tank top. Yes, it is spring, but it's 95 degrees outside currently where I live. So it's always a good time for the tank top season. Joining me this week, of course, is one of my other Dual Dynasty co-hosts and Mr. Kilt Man, who is so mad. I am so... So, hello, Kilt.
Hello. It was not my idea, but I will take full credit for it. Thank you, Nick. That was amazing.
This is why I can never have this is why I can't have nice things. I'm just kidding. But, as Kilt so graciously introduced, we have friend to the channel, my friend, guest ever so often here from the Nick Wrestling Podcast, Happy Hour Podcast, I should say, is Nick. So, hi, Nick. I'm so
Hey,
happy
Mike.
you're
Hey,
here.
thanks for having me on again. I feel like that's why you partially invite me on. It's just to kind of throw a wrench in some of your plans. So,
Hey.
always a pleasure coming on, and thank you for always leaving the not so forbidden door open for me to come on. So, always a pleasure. Looking forward to chatting some wrestling with you here, and yeah, let's get into it, buddy.
Oh, I'm so excited. So this episode of Dual Dynasty is going to be an interesting one. I mean, granted, I love that we have Saturday pay-per-views for WWE, but they make Sunday shows very interesting to say the least. But it does, I also like it because it says, it helps us see, okay, did anything in the go-home shows actually play a part into the pay-per-view? And I'm going to say it, maybe like one or two things, but the rest of this is like we have like 9 weeks until Mania. We also got to do other stuff for that as well. So we're going to kind of stick to the important bits that happened on Raw and SmackDown. Raw, you did pretty good this week. SmackDown, we're going to talk about you in a little bit because yeah, it's a rough go. I'm ready for the summer when we go back to 2-hour SmackDowns.
As I said it before, I will say it again. It's let down, no longer SmackDown.
It's let down. Friday night letdown. Damn.
Yeah, you were just hoping that some of the talent, the mid card talent, would have more of an opportunity to shine with that extra hour, and you just haven't seen it yet, huh?
No, and there's things that happen that shouldn't need to happen, or at least use in-ring time to do so, but we'll talk about that. But before we get into all of that, of course, if you like what you see here and you want to explore more of what BC WrestlePod has to offer, you can follow us all over the social medias. We have report cards for the weekly shows, the pay-per-views. You can watch very fun, out of context clips of our episodes of us saying some of the most craziest things ever imaginable. Not really. But we also have merchandise link in the description below. And yeah, so let's just jump straight into it because we are on a tight schedule. And I want to get our guest here to enough time to still prepare because, spoiler alert, he will be going live tonight to cover Elimination Chamber later this evening. So I may or may not be popping in. We'll see how the rest of the day goes. But let us start off with Monday Night Raw, which, Raw, you are doing pretty decent. I am very happy with what we're doing with you. So let us begin. So Monday Night Raw for this past Monday comes from Cincinnati, Ohio, if you will. And we kick things off with a promo off between Logan Paul and CM Punk. Spoiler alert, Logan makes fun of Cincinnati, Ohio. Punk interrupts him. Punk and him go back and forth. Punk basically says that he's going to personally eliminate him in the Elimination Chamber. And yeah, that was pretty much the gist of it. I feel like I don't need to say anymore. Listen, say what you will about Logan. I was not upset about him with this promo against Punk on Monday. But Logan, we are going to talk about you when we get to SmackDown because you definitely were the fireman in that situation because you just put all the sizzle out of that promo segment we got in the SmackDown. But that's it. I have nothing else to say. Let us move on.
Yes, let us move on.
Cool. I wanted to like this match more than I thought it was going to be. I like all three of these guys, but I felt that something was off. And while this match definitely ended up being fun, I'm just trying to figure out where are we going?
I don't know. It was a very, very unique and just their match. I wanted to see it because Penta is now beefing with those two, and he's doing an amazing job in WWE so far. And it's just, but it's against these two, and it's like, can we get some more Penta with someone else, please? Because these two have issues with Pete Dunne and Ludwig have issues with each other. Let them have their own beef. Let Penta just move on to someone else.
See, I get where you're coming from, but I see, like, I kind of disagree with that because the fact that this is how they bring in everybody. You're not gonna like have them come straight to the top of the card. They're gonna Triple H brings them in as a mid carder. They get some momentum. I'm shocked that he has a loss this early. I think that's the biggest surprise in this, but he didn't take the pin in it. These are the two best mid card workers on Raw for him to be with to start with. So you're gonna get those matches, and I think a lot of it is to some extent not that he needs it, and this is going to sound like a 4-letter curse word, but like protection to some extent. You put him in a triple threat. It's kind of like what they did with, it reminds me of the Motor City Machine Guns when they came in. They do a lot of the X Division triple threat type matches that keeps the action moving, which really presents him as such a threat. And that's the package of what Penta should be. So I don't mind this. I think eventually he's got to take a loss, right? So you'd say, yeah, you want a more meaningful feud, but this is especially with what's going on Raw. This is probably the best that you could put him with, other than keeping him with Chad Gable feuding for a while. Which again, let's not go where that's going to go, because who's he with? Who's he going to be meeting up with? And what's going to happen with that? That'll probably end up jobbing out Chad Gable anyway. But I digress.
You put it very succinctly, and especially with Chad Gable on hiatus or sabbatical, learning the dark arts of Lucha Libre. I'm going to introduce you to what I call the Creed brothers and our lovely lovely rest of American Made. I called the Creed brothers the Mayo brothers, or the Mayo twins, Hellman's and Miracle Whip, and then and I call her Honey Mustard's sister because she's the only color in the group. Now, granted, I figured out a nickname for Chad Gable, and it's Horseradish, because he speaks a lot of horse, and he's a little spicy, and is an acquired taste.
Oh, don't get me started, because I really want Ivy Nile to get a push. My wife knows, Mikey knows all about my affinity for Ivy Nile, and she just gets
I'm right there with you. I love Ivy. She's amazing. I want her away from American Made so she can do her own thing, or something different and better, and not be part of Master Gable.
Yeah,
I like her with him. That's the thing, because I don't think she's got the charisma yet. So I think a mouthpiece of sorts that Gable is could help her. But yeah, they don't book her right. She doesn't get much time to do other than the Royal Rumble this year. But
we will talk about Ivy in a little bit, because as much as I enjoyed a certain, women's mid-card title defense, we'll wait until we get there, because I am baffled. I was like, if you're going to have... Anyways, well, I don't want to waste the time. So I'm just hoping, because these three have been interacting with each other, and they also have their own issues with Braun. I'm like, that's the other issue that I have, and we'll talk about Braun right now. I need to know where we're going with that Intercontinental Championship, because he's just been skulking around Raw over the last couple weeks, having words with folks, words with Penta, Ludwig, Pete, AJ. So I'm just like, Just give me my ladder match and we will call it a day. So we are fine. So again, Ludwig does pick up the victory here. He pins Pete Dunne, but technically Penta does have a loss on his record finally, if you don't count him being eliminated from the Royal Rumble within the first 5 minutes as a big loss. Oh, WWE, they scrubbed that from the replay. That was crazy to watch. So let's move on. I don't care what nobody says. I am excited for this match on Monday. And depending on what's happening, I really hope Io does not miss Mania this year. That is all I have to say.
I mean, she always puts on a great match, right? Like,
oh, absolutely.
You're not gonna. It just, to me, it feels like it feels very much like the 30-day rule. Like Rhea needs to defend it before WrestleMania, and it's just a challenger to keep her going. And it's just, I said I think it's time to break up Damage Control. Like when Asuka comes back healthy, like just move on. And maybe at least the women's tag division could get elevated a little bit further with that. Like it seems like they're putting a little bit more emphasis on that. So as we will get to. but yeah, like I don't know. I know she's a great worker. It's going to be a good match, but to me it seems like a very predictable, right, of where we're headed. But and it's a shame because she's great, but she's going to get lost in the shuffle as she has been the last 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
The one thing I do have to say about this, and I mentioned this in the group chat, so hey, Nick, you didn't get to hear this, but every time I see Io cut a promo, it looks like she's about to cry, and I'm really concerned that something, I'm like really concerned about her. I'm like, oh dear, sweet, what's wrong? Why are you looking like you're about to cry? I love her. I love what she does in the ring, and I'm really excited for this match. But it is something that I think Damage Control should go the same way as Judgment Day. Just break them up, let them start doing their own thing. I made the joke. We'll get into Judgment Day later, but and the joke that I made about that. But this is definitely something that I think I agree with you. They should break up Damage Control and have them start doing something different.
Yeah. Again, I'm excited for the match tomorrow night. And we shall see what happens at the end result of it, of where we know Rhea's going to Mania. I'm more interested and hopeful of where Io's direction is going towards for the next couple weeks leading into Mania. So we shall see. For the 5,064th time, LWO versus, New Day. New Day wins. Like, there's a beatdown afterwards. There's nothing else to say about this because this is the same story we get all the time, whether New Day was in their face era or now they're in their heel era. I'm over it. I don't want New Day and LWO
fighting. So just to throw a wrench in your whole
no, cereal, I'm just kidding.
Crap in your cereal. But what if I was thinking about this too? Because it's like you wanted to see them. I actually loved the whole thing. Like they were thrown out of the locker room. They're wrestling in like street clothes for a while. I loved that whole kind of like gimmick to them, but they booked them terribly. Like where they were losing, they should not have been losing this whole time. But regardless, what if after all said and done, kind of like it's Stockholm Syndrome's not the right term for it, but a similar concept. What if Big E comes back and it actually comes back as a heel to join up with them, and the New Day comes back to the old school, ruthless New Day, the original.
What they started out as, yeah. See, I just want Big E back in general. Like that's all I care about. Whether they end up being a heel or doing something different, I just miss Big E. Also, shout out to Big E from last night Elimination Chamber for holding it down on the pre-show by actually being a good wrestling analyst, but we'll talk more about that tomorrow. But yeah, I miss Big E. Here's the thing.
Mike,
go for it.
Tell me that like the way that the New Day with the 10-year anniversary, the way that turn happened unexpectedly, and then Big E comes back and you expected him to come back to maybe either wrestle or challenge them or bring someone like a Obi Femi, whoever, like with him from NXT or something like that. And he comes back and he's just like I'm impressed you guys realize the error in your ways and what it needs to be done. Like you were right. Like
He
Woods, you
played
were right
Jedi
all along.
mind tricks on these
Yeah,
two.
yeah, like a complete
Yo,
mind screw.
that would be kind of sick, and that would be cool. I just want Biggie back in some capacity in the ring, but we don't know how long that's going to take. I mean, it seems that we're getting closer and closer as each day passes by with the updates, but focusing on this specific match, because these two have been going at it for what seems to be forever. I'm happy that New Day finally picks up a victory after them being on the losing end of things over the last couple months since the turn. I just don't need to see these two feud for a long period of time again. That's all I want to say in all of this. So we'll see. We shall see. WWE can't be playing with me because every single time we see Judgment Day in the background, we get some reference callback to the demon Finn Balor. And I need Hunter to stop playing in my face because I was utterly crushed with how bad the demon was portrayed at WrestleMania at SoFi in that steel cage match, especially because we had to stop the match after Finn got busted open and had to get stitches in the middle of the match. So that killed the momentum. So, Hunter, I'm just going to say this now. Don't play in my face. If you're going to bring back the demon, let the demon win.
Oh, good.
No, so I mean that's the important part of this. It's more Judgment Day shenanigans of them like saying they're on the same page, but also not being on the same page. But go ahead, Nick.
It's just here's what I don't like. How can you bring back Demon Finn as a heel? You can't make it that character a heel to me. It's not meant to be heel. So like for him, and the way he's portrayed, he needs to leave the Judgment Day because he's the reason. And I don't see him like coming back as like Demon Finn Balor because that's a babyface. Like I think he should stay the heel and like the group should just disband. Like it seems like the seeds are already there, right? Like Carlito with Dom and Raquel and Liv, like let them spin off and be their own group. Like let Finn go off. And if, as you were so eloquently putting earlier, with you don't know what Braun Breaker's doing, right? Like where this is potentially like mid card for WrestleMania needs something, right?
Right.
I love the idea of, if Braun Breaker's on Raw, right? Finn Balor's on Raw, just brought AJ Styles to Raw. If you can get me that triple threat match, maybe you want to throw Dom Mysterio in there as a four-way to keep the storyline in. For that gives me at least a credible Intercontinental title match for WrestleMania.
Oh, absolutely. And we will talk about Braun in a little bit, but again, more backstage shenanigans. We're on the same page, but not really with Judgment Day. And Hunter, stop playing in my face. Stop teasing the demon if he ain't gonna come back within the next couple of weeks or at Mania. So I would not be mad at this match. That is all I have to say. Okay. So Gunther squashes Akira Tozawa. The crowd is behind Otis as it looks like Otis is about to do something, but then gets palmed, which then allows Juicy J is like main event Jay Uso, Juicy J on Instagram. Yes, that is his handle, coming into the ring for the save. At least it was another pull apart brawl like we had for the last 3 weeks.
Juicy J's his actual.
Yeah, that is his actual
That
handle.
is his handle on Instagram. It's like it's Juicy Uzi. He needs to make that a t-shirt, just saying. Anywho, I'm happy it wasn't a pull apart brawl. I'm still slightly worried of how we're gonna hold this for the next 8 weeks.
It's very, very, very weak. And this was a throwaway match. This is like, oh, I'm gonna go pick on the little kid just because I can pick on the little kid. Like Akira played it great and he did his best, and I literally was behind Akira the whole time because it's like, dude, you're just getting you're getting picked on. And then I wanted Otis to really do something to the ring general because that really would have made my day. sadly that didn't happen, but this came out with a great promo at the end of the show, so we'll go from there.
Yeah. So again, I hope that Hunter, Adam Pierce, and Raw would be able to add a little more dimension to this going into this. I'm still excited for the match. I think the match is going to be fun. It's just that we got to figure out something else. And at least this was not another pull apart brawl like we've seen the last 3 weeks. So good on everyone. I would not be surprised if we get Otis and Gunther within that time between now and WrestleMania just to have Gunther do something. So we shall see what happens. I know I say that a lot, but literally the waiting game is part of being a wrestling fan to see when they pull the trigger on certain things. There's only one problem I had with this match because this match was actually really fun for me. I like both women. It was great. My issue is in this image right here. If you have Ivy become the next challenger for Lyra, why did we use Dakota Kai as a pit stop in this whole entire thing? I was like, is Ivy hurt? Do we feel that Hunter feels like she's not ready to have a championship match against Lyra yet? Like, why do we have Dakota get a rematch if she's not even going to win?
All I know is Dakota's double cheeked up on a Sunday right now, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I was about to say I was very distracted by that, Mikey. So as I had a moment to then collect my thoughts as you were speaking after the first couple seconds. Listen, Mikey, you put the picture up. I didn't. So regardless, I think that a lot of it has to do with like they're just trying to build up Lyra as a champion, which and it's been terribly done because they're trying to give her a title defense that matters, or at least a title defense to give her any momentum because she just lost to get into the chamber, which was another big thing because they did the same thing to Chelsea Green a few weeks back, right? So the idea of like, I think this is just to get Lyra some momentum, and it angers me because we just talked about this 5 minutes ago about I really like Ivy. I think she's got a lot of potential, but I think this buildup makes her look like she's just another transitional challenger for Lyra until they figure out who actually could take that belt off her.
That is very fair. Again, I did not hate the match. I liked it because, again, we also been complaining here that Lyra hasn't really defended the thing. But now that she has a defense under, now we can get to Lyra and Ivy for however long that program's going to be. So I'm still okay with it. I'm still excited. So we go to commercial. We come backstage. Not Ivy is being interviewed. I think this is the right picture. Yep, she is being interviewed. And then we get a big old brawl between the Creeds and the War Raiders as we are getting another tag team championship match next week. Hopefully this one doesn't end in a DQ finish like we got for some reason last week. So there's that. Sammy, I love you. We got to figure something out what to do with this beard. Like, it cannot go any further. Like, sir.
I love this beard. This is a great beard.
Yeah, it's a pretty good beard. I don't know. As someone who's again, it's thick, but like I don't like it when it goes like Santa Claus length when he does that like periodically. But like I think he actually looks pretty good in this instance. There's some people that just like I could never do like the Eric Rowan.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, that's a lot of dedication, and I give Eric Rowan credit for all of that. I'm like, that's a lot, but that's okay.
Ivar, yeah.
Ivar too, man. I love you, but dang. But this Sami Zayn is having a sit-down interview with Jackie. Talks about the unsanctioned match happening at Elimination Chamber, and he's going to put Kevin through hell. Spoiler alert: they kind of did, but we'll talk more about that on Monday. Braun Breaker ends up beating Dominic Mysterio via DQ from Judgment Day. This is the face-off. I may or may not have popped a little bit when these two came face-to-face like this. I'm like, yes, give it to me. If we're not getting a multi-man ladder match, give me this match at Mania in some capacity, because we do need to start building mid-card matches for, as you said, Nick, for WrestleMania. So I would not be upset if this was the matchup at Mania for the IC title.
Yeah, it often feels like, the mid-card is just kind of thrown together in a lot of cases for Mania, but like, which I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be unlike the case here, but at least you have a champion that's been built up forever. It gives you an out if you really want to take the belt off him at Mania, where he still looks strong. You have Finn Balor. Everyone wants to see. I mean, at least I know I do. I don't want to speak for anyone here, but like the whole, Balor Club, Bullet Club, like AJ Styles, Finn Balor, like one-on-one. I don't think a lot of people want to see that, but like you put those two and all the history behind that potentially in here, and the current storyline with the Judgment Day with Dom Mysterio. Give me that. I think that incorporates a lot, gets a lot of people on the card, and it gives you a lot of opportunities. A lot of outs, a lot of good writing outs.
Yeah. So I'm excited for this. So this should be fun. I really like this segment. I really did. So Cody comes out. He addresses the fact that he has to answer The Rock at Elimination Chamber. He gets interrupted by Seth Rollins, and then these two go back and forth. Seth, calls out Cody saying that I risked everything for you at WrestleMania last year, and it's kind of a dumb idea to become The Rock's corporate champion. But what I loved is that not only did Cody call out Seth on the hypocrisy, referring to corporate Seth Rollins when he was part of Triple H and Stephanie, like the authority storyline, which say what you will about that whole thing, however your personal feelings are about, the story and how a certain previous person in charge addressed the fans and their criticism. We have not forgotten, the promo hunter with you saying, if you don't want to watch our product, don't. Then everybody did. And then they're like, we got to fix this. So, but what I also love is Seth not denying it. It's like, yeah, I did those things and I'm going to do it again if I have to. But I know what that does to you. So, Cody, don't do it. But Cody says that he's not going to make that same mistake. But if Rollins wants to get to him for his Mania match, he's going to have to win the Elimination Chamber and challenge him for the title at WrestleMania. I really like this segment. I thought it saved Cody from having to talk by himself. We got more development between these two because, again, Seth was the first feud that Cody had upon returning to WWE, and the very famous / infamous torn pectoral Hell in a Cell match too. So, and I also love that Seth is like, you know what? I did those terrible things, and I'm gonna do it again. So, that's my biggest issue when people are more face-like, and then they done something terrible in the past in character, like, I have changed as a person, but Seth doubles down. He's like, nah, I did it, and I do it again if it got me to where I needed to go. But I know what that does to you, so you might want to reconsider, Cody.
Seth Rollins, how CM Punk of you to say that.
Right, which is crazy. Which is crazy to say. Surprisingly, this is probably the strongest non-wrestling segment for me of the whole Raw episode. So I was like, good job, boys. You did great. You did great. Oh, these guys. I am happy though, because again, I said this on the NXT Vengeance Day review. Shawn Michaels did more to progress the fallout of Grayson Waller and Austin Theory in 2 weeks than Hunter has done in months with these two. And it seems that we are still heading towards that direction because Grayson Waller is not vibing that Austin Theory is doing the yeet. So, and then
I like that it's kind of like forced out of him. He's just, oh shit.
Yeah, can we just get to if this doesn't happen at Mania or before me? I mean, at least the night at, it just seems to me like they I don't know if they just don't know what to do with. I think more Austin Theory than anything else after this. But they've teased this for how long? It's now it seems like a year where we've talked about them breaking up. Let's just move. I don't know if there's it's because there's some comedic elements to them together, and that's what they're worried about. Losing. I think it's 80% Grayson Waller anyway. So I think they're just trying to protect Theory by keeping them together at this point.
I mean, that could be the case too. I will say that I do want this breakup to happen. If they're not going to have them break up before Mania or at Mania. It needs to happen before the next pay-per-view after Mania, which is reported to be Backlash. And if the rumored reports are to be true, it's Backlash Mexico, which has me excited because, my peoples. But anyways, honestly, break them up. We don't need to continue. This has been a story for almost a whole year now of them not being on the same page, but then also suddenly being on the same page. But I digress. This is on my short list for best TV matches of 2025, and it's like we're only 2 months into 2025. This match ruled. I love this match so much. And I figured that Liv and Raquel would end up getting the titles, but damn, this was an actual women's tag team match. And I haven't felt this excited for a women's tag team title match since, well, ever. Well, no, I can't say that because the NXT women's tag team matches were great. Naomi and Bianca versus Lash and Jakara not too long ago in NXT was fantastic. But this was an amazing match. And of course, spoiler alert, Liv and Raquel are your new women's tag team champions. Pat McAfee, tomorrow I'm going to run you for filth because how dare you disrespect. Raquel is now a 4-time women's tag team champion. She's had 3 different partners, and those titles are kind of cursed. But I really love this match. I don't care what nobody says. Fight me. I'm just kidding. Don't fight me. I'm squishy.
Like, I agree. It was a great match, but wrong timing. Wrong timing. Like, this should have, and a couple things. First of all, and I love, I'm a Jersey guy. We love our Jersey girl, Liv Morgan. So I love any opportunity that they put her in the spotlight because I think, she had arguably the best year of any female in 2024 for sure. So putting a belt back on her and letting her go into Mania potentially with the title makes a lot of sense. And this is historic. This is the first time ever there's 3-time women's champions, women's tag team champions, excuse me. So I like a lot of it. The timing doesn't make sense to me because you could have made a bigger moment for them. Secondly, I think with the Jade attacker storyline, right? Not knowing where that could go. Presumably it could be, there's a lot of theories, right? Who it could be. It could be Bianca. It could be Naomi. It could be, Liv, right? There's a lot that goes on there. So I like the idea of the reveal happening and costing Bianca and Naomi. Like Jade, I think it's going down that path, right? Of like potentially the closest to Jade was Naomi and Bianca. So like I would like that whole story. That was something that's been thrown around. I know Mikey, on our show that we've talked about that a lot is and making the reveal of Jade knowing who her attacker is costing Bianca and Naomi the tag titles. I think that story would have so much more of an impact. You could do it at WrestleMania there. Either both of those kind of rub me the wrong way. I think you could come to some sort of conclusion, peak moment in the Jade storyline with the tag titles, or make it a bigger moment at WrestleMania where they win it. Those are the 2 issues that I have with it. Other than that, yes, I'm very, very happy with Liv Morgan and and Raquel being the first to do this. Just thought the timing was off and the moment wasn't seized as much as it could have been.
No, I agree with you there because I also feel that because okay, so as Kilt knows, because we've had multiple discussions, whether it be for tabletop games or podcasting stuff, the way that I view my wrestling is kind of like I do with the television series. So WrestleMania to me for WWE is like the season finale, if you will, of a culmination of a year of worth of wrestling and stories and all this stuff. I think that we still could have had this match, and tomorrow when we talk about Elimination Chamber, while I did love the Jade return and the beatdown of Naomi, I also kind of feel bad for Naomi that she didn't get a chance to really get to actually experience the chamber again. But but that's neither here nor there. I am happy for Liv and Raquel. I think they're going to be fun as champions. Here's hoping that the curse of the titles don't come back. But I do agree with you. I feel like we could have waited and then utilized a. I would have loved. I was like, "Ooh, is Jay going to return here? Is she going to cost them the titles? Is she going to fight Naomi? And that's how we lose?" No. Oh, okay. It's just Raquel doing and Dominic doing. Well, Dominic running interference for towards the tail end of this match, which allow Raquel to get Naomi and to smack her on the top of the metal pole, if you will. So, well, should have, could have, would have, but that is what happened. Still a really fun, fantastic match. I love this. And that was the end of Raw. So, Raw, you did great this week. Oh, my poor little stepchild, SmackDown. So, we're not going to. So, yeah, Kilt, I know you got feelings. Why don't you share them before we begin?
Hello, letdown, we meet again.
Oh, no.
You've let me down once a fucking again. Oh my god.
Okay.
There were good moments. I will say there were good moments. But damn.
This was tough. 3-hour SmackDowns are not really clicking with me. Now, I will say I did have a critique prepared, but that no longer holds any weight because initially I was like, hold up, I thought we were getting Shinsuke and LA Knight. So why are we now getting 3 triple threats and then why are we getting 3 singles rounds to find people to put in a triple threat to then determine the number 1 contender? It wasn't until yesterday, as I was doing my research on some news and stories and stuff like that, that the reason why that LA Knight and Shinsuke was not happening and no longer on the card is because Shinsuke is currently not in the country because either the day or 2 days before, Shinsuke's brother passed away. So he's currently dealing with that. So he's in Japan, spending time with family, preparing for his brother's memorial funeral service over there. So from all of us here at BC Wrestle Part, our hearts, our prayers, and our thoughts go to Shinsuke and his family in this time of mourning. So I give that whole little thing a little bit more grace. So I'm not going to be as hard as I am on it, given the fact, real life trumps storytelling in wrestling. So hopefully Shinsuke will be back. Give him a couple of, give him some time to grieve. And then when he's ready to come back, so we can get this. We got 10 weeks. So if Shinsuke doesn't return until Mania, I completely understand because there's no timetable for grieving processes, as I know very too well. But that is the only thing SmackDown gets a pass for me because everything else was booty cheeks for some parts of it. Cody,
I like what you did there, Mikey.
Booty cheeks. Cody is over this, and so are we. He's just like, this is getting out of hand, you guys. We need to stop. So we begin the show. Cody's now getting a private detail for this episode of SmackDown. And Cody's like, all right, let's just get this over with. But he's so over it. And I have nothing more to say. I just thought this picture was funny. This was a hot mess of a segment. I'm sorry. This is a hot mess. So, again, we are getting Trish in front of the Canada crowd. So, to the Toronto crowd, because that's where SmackDown was. This was in Toronto. Her and Tiffany are wearing the Maples hockey team jerseys, which was fun. Then I was like, okay, you know what? Not necessarily the best, but we're continuing to build towards this match between Nia and Candice and these two. Perfect. This made me mad.
I was calling that, Mikey, that last segment. You have to call it because I saw it. Call it like you see it. And Nikki gave me a look, but I call it Trishy and Tushy.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
Because of that one picture that they have that's breaking the internet.
I'm just like, the world is on fire.
But I know what you're talking about because it came to me. It's when they turned around to show the backs of the jerseys. Yes, Trishy and Tushy.
Yeah. and literally, and I just had enough. I can't. Tiffany Stratton, again, another woman who had a great 2024. Arguably, for WWE Women of the Year, it's either Rising Star, Tiffany Stratton or Liv Morgan. And to me, I don't want to see her as a babyface. I know people like you're cheering her, like this build up with her as a babyface, like this whole month. That I get you're trying to get a cheap pop for Trish Stratus or whatever for Toronto. I don't like it. I like the heel Tiffany Stratton. She works so much better as that. I'm shutting up now.
No, that's okay. I mean, I do love heel. I mean, because when she was in NXT, we had heel Tiffany, which was really fun to do. And I think, eventually we could probably get back to the heel Tiffany. But right now, because between her and Charlotte kind of needs to be the heel. I was actually texting with a friend this morning, and this is kind of a side plot of all this, but I'll wait until we get after this segment to talk about that because I was mad that Chelsea was out here. I'm like, girl, I know we don't have anything for you to do in terms of challengers wise, but this is crazy. Also, shout out to Piper Niven for every week just being dedicated to the bit. So she came out as a Canadian Mountie, which was kind of funny. But this ultimately set up where Tiffany challenges Chelsea to a match. And I said this last week, and I'll keep saying it until the cows come home. Again, it's the mid card, and it's not for the title, but can we stop having our mid card champions losing? I know Chelsea's good at being a good hand and everything, but damn, man.
Preach it, Mikey. Preach it.
I'm tired. And this was the same thing I had too. I was like, if you're going to have champions, I don't like champions fighting other champions if titles aren't going to be on the line, because for Chelsea, losing doesn't add credibility, especially since she's the inaugural Women's United States champion. Stop having your champions lose in this capacity. If it was a multi-person match and she didn't get pinned, but technically still lost, then I would be less upset about it because she didn't get pinned. But in a one-on-one situation where you have your women's champion and your Women's United States champion, it should have been Tiffany and Piper. I'm sorry. I know realistically, Tiffany shouldn't have a chance against Piper because Piper is that girl and powerhouse. There was no need for Chelsea to lose. And well, not even lose. It was a DQ, but technically she still lost because the win went to Tiffany. So I'm just like, nah, we're good. But yeah, so technically it's Tiffany versus Trish. It doesn't go that long because Candice and Nia interrupt, causing a DQ. So Tiffany wins via DQ. And this was ultimately to build to the match that we would get at Elimination Chamber. But the promo at the beginning was weird. I hated that Chelsea was involved in a match that wasn't for the title. And then we had a DQ that didn't really need to be there. So technically Chelsea still lost. This was a mess of a segment. Moving on. This is the most hood picture I have ever seen of my lifetime. Jacob Fatu is him. But because we get an announcement that technically Solo is in these like first rounds matches to enter the triple threat, but Solo loves Jacob Sikoa Solo Sikoa loves Jacob so much that Solo gives up his spot to Jacob. So Jacob will be taking the place of Solo Sikoa in these first round matches. And I'm just like, okay. This is not on the WrestleMania card. I don't know what we're doing. I'm just putting it out there. This is not a match for Mania. I don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. I don't know why. Like, I get this match, but like, what? I part of me wonders, like, with the absence and like, what's going on? Like, where does Roman fit into the whole this whole bloodline saga? Like, what does still looming, right? Final boss is still part of this bloodline. He is the high chief. Like, there's so many layers to the storyline. The other thing too is, I always thought that it made sense for Jacob. I mean, he's so much more badass as a heel, though. But like, it made sense. Like, I always thought, like, fantasy booking, what made sense to me is like Solo loses, right, and Jacob realizes Solo's not the the man the tribal chief that he thought he was, right? He moves away from him, and you're seeing that tension. But Solo, because he's so insecure and needs to do something to stay at the top, finds a new enforcer. Who's his new enforcer? Talatonga, Nicolea. And like let him come in, because you can't have two enforcers. We've talked about they signed him for, what he could bring to that storyline. We've talked about this on my show for almost a year now since they signed him. It seems like that seems like the way to introduce him. You can keep him protected as he's I think 7 foot. So he's like a 7 foot bodyguard enforcer type. That's what made sense to me. So I don't know, like this matchup happens. Maybe we're moving towards this for it's a one-on-one WrestleMania match, and Solo needs backup, because one-on-one, there's no way Solo can compete with Jacob, right? And with Tama there, like who seemingly is right now backing Jacob, unless maybe there's a Tama turn, because he is the right-hand man to Solo in theory. There is some layers to it, but I don't know. It looks. I agree with you. It looks like that's where we're headed. That it'll be on the WrestleMania card, but it seems like it would get lost. That's what's disappointing, because like this is the biggest. The Bloodline has always been the biggest storyline in WWE the last 3+ years, right? But like, I think post WrestleMania, like where they were going with this, could have. It should have been a bigger match, and if this goes to Mania, with everything going on in the Mania card, this seems like it'd be lost in the mid card. Like it seems like a mid card match at Mania, and that's disappointing. But it needs to happen. But just again, like we were just talking about it with the Liv Morgan moment, right? Like I always want the big moments, the culmination of these feuds to be at big pay-per-views at the very least, or at least at a PLE at the very least. And this seems like it could be a main event match. Could be built up as a main event match at a PLE, maybe Backlash, like you were just talking about earlier, like to some extent, and to put it on WrestleMania, it'll get lost in the shuffle. And this has been the top storyline on SmackDown for the last 6 months, and it seems like it's just gonna get lost in the shuffle as we go towards WrestleMania season.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm excited. I think this match is going to be fun if we get it at Mania, but yeah, it seems that we lost a lot of steam once we were officially done with this new bloodline prior to Roman Reigns returning, and post Survivor Series. I don't think anybody in this group has really been the same since then. But again, Jacob Fatu ends up, taking Solo's spot. R-Truth never change.
I damn near spit my drink out when you went to R-Truth.
This was stupid, but it was hilarious. Cody gets the shrimp and the wine and all that. R-Truth is just chilling in there eating the food, and Cody's like, "Help yourself." R-Truth, I love you. You're great.
He's amazing. And I made a joke about R-Truth the other day in our group chat, and I want to tell it to Nick because I think Nick would appreciate this. So, you remember how R-Truth has Little Jimmy?
Yes.
I think Little Jimmy's last name is Cena because we can't see him.
It's fair. That's fair. That's it. Yeah. I liked his line too. He looks like, "Don't be shellfish."
I love it.
But that makes me want sushi so much more. That plate behind Cody looks so phenomenal.
Dude, yeah, so same.
I'm like, give it to me. That actually looks pretty good. Alrighty. So that was funny. We get into our first of 3 qualifying matches. So the first one was Andrade versus Jacob Fatu. And I have to say, I thought the match was really fun. I thought it was really good. I love Andrade. I know I feel like I'm a broken record when I say that, but unfortunately, fortunately, however you want to see it, Jacob Fatu does win. So I was like, you know what? I would have been fine either way, to be completely honest. But it made sense for Jacob to win, especially since Solo gave that spot to Jacob. So first of the 3 to make it into the triple threat final round to see who becomes number one contender. Yeah. This was mess number 2 because technically we were supposed to get Profits versus Los Garza, but DIY was not going to let that happen. And then Pretty Deadly and Motor City Machine Guns end up joining the fray. I'm like, I smell a multi-person match at WrestleMania. Like I said previously, the only way I would be okay with it. Well, now it can no longer be Tornado Tag Fatal 4-Way because it seems we're getting all 5 teams. Make this a gauntlet match. That is the only way I would be okay with it. A tag team championship gauntlet match.
This is definitely the train wreck match. It derailed so quickly. I didn't know where to look. I didn't know who to watch. I'm like, am I over here? Am I over here? Am I over there?
It wasn't even a match. It was just a mess. There were so many
what's
bodies
going on here. It's like, it's crazy. And I have to agree that if they do this match at Mania, it's going to be just a mess of so many teams trying to go after each other, and it's going to be insane. So it's going to have, as you said, a gauntlet match. It's going to have to be, or they do almost like they did at Survivor Series with the cages, where they lock people in.
Have a War Games match without calling it a War Games match.
Pretty much, it's like everyone's locked in, and then like certain people just get released, and then that's just how it goes.
You can't have another ladder match because we got that last year at Mania, and it had mixed results. So again, I would love to see if you're going to have every one of these SmackDown tag teams be involved, if you're not going to narrow the field down a little bit, a gauntlet match, I feel like, is your best bet, hopefully. But again, we have 8 to 10 weeks, so we can see where that goes to. But this was also hot mess segment number 2.
I feel like we're building towards like the one that makes the most sense one-on-one now is Street Profits.
Yep.
Because they haven't faced off against each other. We've seen the DIY, MCMG, bout yet. So I mean that seems like it's happening, but we'll see.
We shall see. Drew says that he believes Cody Rhodes is going to sell his soul because he did not respond to the Final Boss's offer immediately. This next part I love so much, though, because we get a vignette with John Cena, and then Drew McIntyre just interrupts the thing, hijacks the broadcast, and then cuts this promo saying that, he's going to bury John Cena, which then leads into, at this point, a fire segment. So we have McIntyre, Damian Priest, Seth
the
Rollins.
Oven Mitt.
Yeah, the Oven Mitt. I don't care what nobody says. It was great.
Yeah, it was great.
You have CM Punk. And you know what? I was like, yo, this segment is kind of fire. I love these 4 talking. Damian's kind of just there. But honestly, this was about to be my segment of SmackDown. And then this man had to go and extinguish the fire that was the segment. Logan, I know I don't like you as a person. Normally, you're decent on the mic. This was not it. This was not it. This was a rough one from Logan.
I think he was just skipping around. He was trying to go after CM Punk. Said, "No, I'll come back to you later." Like trying to be a diss, but it's like the way you delayed it and worded it, you didn't do it. You started to, it looks like almost that he might have been impaired, or that they were trying to feed him lines into his earpiece too quickly or too many people at a time, so he couldn't hear anything. And it's just like, dude, you're confused. Why did you even do this? Like, why did you even tease Cena's music? It was kind of a good idea. I won't lie, but his
promo did not back it up.
Terrible.
Well, here's the thing.
So bad.
He picked the best way to put it is that Logan's stuff for his digs were, how do I put this? He basically said that he picked up the easiest stuff. He's, made fun of Seth's, Oven Mitt outfit, refused to address CM Punk. Damian Priest was irrelevant in this whole entire thing. And then he ran away after CM Punk trying to chase him. I was like, Logan, if you're going to come with the promos, you gotta You got to do better than this. But I was so mad at Logan because he ruined what otherwise was a pretty good segment leading into him coming out to John Cena's music, which I have to give him credit for. That was funny and I loved it. But then he talked and ruined it. Hunter, you need to make sure Logan knows what he's talking about next time. Second first round match for the United States Championship number 1 contender. LA Knight defeats Santos Escobar. That is it. As soon as I saw that matchup, I was like, there's no way Santos is winning this thing. Not over LA Knight. So LA is now the second person to qualify, which means we got one more later. The internet is ruthless, saying that Kevin Owens is in an AEW ring, which was blasphemous. I was like, damn, the internet is mean, y'all. But I was like, damn. I was like, this is why we can't enjoy wrestling anymore. But Sammy comes down to the ring and he calls out Kevin Owens. Owens responds, but he is at the actual Rogers Center where Elimination Chamber is taking place. And cuts his promo. He's basically going to destroy Sami Zayn's neck. And he's going to make sure that Sami Zayn will feel this forever, as he promises to confine Sami Zayn to a wheelchair so his family will have to watch him be miserable. I was like, that was such a cold line. I was like, only these two can get away with it, with the friendship and the history that these two have in their career and in their personal lives. So this made me excited for the unsanctioned match that would occur the next night at Elimination Chamber. Good job, boys.
But you knew that, like, with all the history that they've had, they're not going to disappoint, right? Like these two have had decades worth of experience running on the indies together. So by now you have your story, you have it laid out. Like, I expect to see the finished product. This is peak grudge rivalry as you can get.
Yeah. So stay tuned tomorrow and later this evening from both Nick and myself, respectively, with our, stuff for our full in-depth analysis. Last one was Braun Strowman versus Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes pulls the Eddie Guerrero spot with the chair, getting Braun disqualified and making it into the final spot for the triple threat. Makes sense for Melo's character. I have nothing else to add, because on paper, Braun Strowman should have destroyed this man. We got a 6-woman tag team match, which was also really good, where we saw Roxanne Perez and Liv and Raquel of the Judgment Day defeating Bayley, Bianca, and Naomi. And then after the match, we had Alexa Bliss come into the ring, hit Abigail DDT on Rox's end to end the segment. This was fun. This was one of the bright spots of SmackDown this week. Roxanne is going to be so amazing on the main roster after Stand and Deliver. Cannot wait to have her here full time.
You know what's interesting about Roxanne is that, like, the comp always has been her with AJ Lee, and like coming out, I think she's more polished than AJ was coming up. Like, I don't know if it's maybe I've seen more of her from like the NXT and like the crossover, that she's had a little bit more experience and got a little bit more a little bit more seasoned. But to me, yeah, like she's like, even like coming up, like everything they do, like letting her go coast, almost like basically almost coast to coast, right? The Iron Woman Award and the Royal Rumble, like it's something that I think she was ahead of where AJ was. But then again, I think AJ might have come up when she was 20,
right?
Roxanne being 23. But yeah, I mean, maybe that's what it is. But you see the experience and how well she's presented herself.
Oh, absolutely. So this was a fun match. This is one of the bright spots. We get the final match. So it is Jacob, LA Knight, and Carmelo Hayes in a triple threat, which was also fun. LA Knight does end up winning, so technically he was supposed to face Shinsuke this week and is now still number one contender, which, he will face Shinsuke whenever Shinsuke comes back after, the funeral services and everything with his family. So I feel for Shinsuke. I think this was the best way they went about, still being able to put on matches while also being like having to actually change plans because a real life situation came up. So I was not mad at this whole concept. And I would like to see this done in the future when it's not having to use this as a backup plan because our champion's not here. So it was fun.
It was good. I will say the one thing I did like about this match was the promo that Shinsuke cut in full Japanese.
That's what I've been wanting. Like, he basically, yeah, because he's like, he hopes that everybody in this triple threat prays that they lose because they don't want to be the person to face what comes next if should they win and the hell that Shinsuke is going to put them through. Just let Shinsuke cut full on Sith Lord anime villain promos in Japanese. Like, it is so much more aesthetically appealing and it is more intimidating for this heel character that you're trying to portray Shinsuke as. Stop trying to make international talent cut promos in English because the translation and it always ends up not being as menacing as their native tongue. But that's just a me thing. CM Punk caused the internet to catch on fire briefly because everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, is CM Punk gonna turn and become corporate CM Punk?" I'm like, fat chance. Do we not remember his last stint in WWE? He was the anti-establishment guy. There is no way he's going to. But he does give advice to Cody. He tells him that, you know.
But Mikey, how cool could it be? It could be awesome if he's older now. Him in a suit, CM Punk in a suit. Come on. Him coming out after all that and realizing, listen, I fought the system for so long and I realized that the only way is to just be one of them. Come on. It would be so nice. It's a good storyline.
It would be, but I figured that he wasn't going to, especially because usually anti-authoritarian people, Punk is very vocal about certain issues and things like that. And he's not afraid to tell you about it, which is one of the reasons I love this man. But he basically tells Cody in this interaction to take the Rock's offer and to stick it up the Rock's, ass, so to speak, where the sun don't shine. So, which is par for the course for Punk. We finally get to what ended SmackDown. Cody addressing the SmackDown crowd gets interrupted by The Rock, who offers him this god-awful Ford 150 with the American Nightmare logo. What I'm assuming is probably just a giant magnet stuck on it. Like, I was like, you couldn't have done something better? Yeah.
It looks cool. I will say it does look cool. And I kind of understand where, because he pulled it up in a Ford. I'm going to give you a Ford. But the problem I had with this entire promo segment is they did not mic Rock properly. And he was so washed out.
It was weird. But then I'm going to put this image up because this is what kind of ended the show before going off. And my jaw dropped to the floor with that belt because I was even more confused of the direction. I was like, you want Cody to be your corporate champion. Now, granted, based on the events that happened at Elimination Chamber, I'm pretty sure we're going to find out that Rock never had intended for Cody to do so and just wanted to futz with him, if you will. But that belt that says Cody Soul on it, and then having the date of Dustin Rhodes' death was foul. I was like, this is a weird way to get Cody to join you. I was like, that is so foul. I'm like, what the flip is happening with this story
Mikey,
right now?
You have to remember, he's the final boss, and he's doing a little bit some of the Star Wars, like Sith, Darth Sidious type stuff. So, like, yeah, the day that your father died, yeah, you died too. Like that's kind of the idea. He's preying on, like, you know what I mean? I think that's kind of the idea. Like it is weird though. Like, and if you remember back to talking about other awkwardness post WrestleMania last year, where he's like, "Can I hold the belt? Can I touch it? You could touch mine if I could touch yours." So there's very weird undertones that have already been established with belts throughout this feud, and it's just another one. Yeah, and it's like, what happens then when Cody says yes? Is then The Rock gonna wear that belt around like a wedding ring or something?
This was a weird, like, again, knowing what we know, what happened at Elimination Chamber last night at the time of this recording, but even still, even with everything that went down at Elimination Chamber, this also still does not make any the lick of sense for what we've been telling. And I'm just like, yeah. I mean, this is how SmackDown ends with this belt and everything. I'm like, and by the end of this, I'm like, I'm even more confused now. So I really need to see what happens at Elimination Chamber now.
It's like, oh, I'm gonna offer you all these things. You can be at home with your family. You don't have to drive the bus, ride on the bus anymore. I'm gonna give you a car.
I'm like, I'm taking the bus. What you mean?
Like,
Like,
why are you giving me a car? Give me a
Yeah,
goddamn plane.
Yeah, or a helicopter. Come on, man.
something.
Something that like I can travel to and from my home quickly. Not like I'll be there in like 3 days.
Ultimately, I think this is definitely a byproduct of what happens when you try to push this angle with only really with 2 real weeks to lead into this decision making process. Because literally, last week was when we got The Rock doing this, and now we're here at Elimination Chamber the night before here on SmackDown, where Cody has to make this decision. This is definitely a byproduct of trying to fit in this angle with only 2 weeks of real build. So, but that is how SmackDown goes off the air, and we are done with WWE this week. Overall, Raw was pretty good. SmackDown, once again, left me with lots of questions, and me looking forward to when we go back to 2 hours. So that way it's not just like filler. But yeah, so that is going to be it for us here at Dual Dynasty. So before we sign off, I do want to give Nick some time. So Nick, why don't you tell us what you got going on this later on this evening, and also why don't you plug in, what you got going on too. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, my friend, as always. Yeah, so again, Nick Teodoro, that's my name, that's the channel, but it's the Nick Club Wrestling Happy Hour. My wife Nicole and I, she's Nicole, I'm Nick. Nick Club, obviously. So we do our show normally Friday. Our staple or our flagship show is Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern time. It's a call-in show. So we do a rundown of our usual big 3 topics of the week, and then we open up the phone lines and let everyone call in and let us know what you're drinking, what you're thinking. We sit at our bar here and we just have a couple drinks and talk wrestling. Tonight, in about a little over an hour, we will be recapping WWE Elimination Chamber and all the craziness that happened last night. So we will be doing that relatively shortly. Just one last plug. Mikey is one of our biggest supporters of the show, friend of the channel. We are getting ready as we ramp up towards WrestleMania. We got a lot of awesome things planned. We are doing 3 separate YouTube channels. Obviously, this channel, the Biconic Wrestling Podcast, my channel, Nick Teodoro, the Nick Club Wrestling Happy Hour, and we have our friends at In Your House, the wrestling podcast as well. So they're WrestleMania week. We're going to be doing a number of shows. We're calling it aptly named Podmania. So we'll hopefully have a lot of crossovers, everyone joining everyone else's show. So a lot of new voices. So it'll be a fun time. So I appreciate, Mikey being a major part of that and a big supporter of our show and everyone here. So we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun road to WrestleMania for everybody here.
Yeah, I'm excited for Podmania and getting, the 2 podcasts to crossover. I mean, we, as Nick knows through our conversations, Biconics are going to be super busy leading into WrestleMania weekend because I have the tentative finalized schedule of all the things we are doing, from watch along to reviews for WrestleMania 41 Hell Week, as we call it here. It is our second iteration. I think the last year's Hell Week for WrestleMania went very, very well, but I am super excited to expand the circle of friends that we get to do this with, and I'm excited. So make sure to tune into the Elimination Chamber review for Nick later this evening, and then also you can check out our review for VC WrestlePod's Elimination Chamber tomorrow. I'm hoping to have a full house, which is myself, Kilt, the Professor, Minnie, Luis, and Jesse. So there's going to be a whole bunch of us, hopefully. But I'm excited, and this week's also fun. We got Elimination Chamber review tomorrow. Tuesday is AEW, NXT and CMLL on Wednesdays. We have TNA on Friday. And then to round out the week on Saturday, myself and Adolfo will be doing a live watch along for MLW's Intimidation Games pay-per-view, which is free on YouTube, which is crazy. The pay-per-view is free on YouTube. And then gear up because Sunday is going to be crazy as the outside of our WWE review, the AEW crew will be doing a live watch along for AEW Revolution. Nick, the pay-per-view schedule is finally ramping up as we get into spring and it's about to get nuts. So Elimination Chamber is in the rear view and now it is time for us for Revolution, which is crazy.
Exciting.
I am too. But that's going to be it for us here at Dual Dynasty. So for myself, Kilt, friend to the channel, Nick, and the rest of the BC WrestlePod family, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay iconic, and more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. We will catch you later. But until then, sayonara, adios, and take care of yourselves tonight. Ta-ta for now.